All right, back right on the beer review, and today I'll be reviewing yet another beer from the Weyerbacher Brewing Company, and they're out of Easton, Pennsylvania, and this is their Blithering Idiot. So this is a barley wine ale that comes in 11.1% alcohol by volume, 34 IBUs, and at the time of review, this bottle is just under 4.5 months old. So a couple months ago, New York State finally got distribution of Weyerbacher back after many years. It's been, I want to say, about 5 years since I last saw Weyerbacher beers here in the Buffalo, New York region. And I think it was 6 beers showed up, and I picked up 4 of them. They're Merry Monk's, Quad, Tiny, and this beer. The other 3 I've already reviewed, and this is the 4th and final offering that I'm reviewing of the beers I grabbed. And I must say, despite Weyerbacher, I think they went bankrupt twice in like a 3-year period. I want to say it was like between like 2020 and 2022. They have come back with a vengeance because the quality of their beer has not changed. If anything, it's improved. And I think all of the beers that I've had and reviewed recently have been better than I remember them, especially that tiny Imperial Belgian Stout that was just, or Belgian Imperial Stout, whatever you want to call it. Fantastic. One of the best beers I've had from Weyerbacher. Now, this beer I've had a couple times before, and I really do enjoy it. However, one of my favorite beers from them is their Insanity, which is the bourbon barrel aged variant of this. And a little birdie told me that not only is Insanity coming back, but also Sunday Morning Stout, which was their answer to like Founders KBS back in the mid 2010s. I haven't had either of those beers in like 8 or 9 years. And apparently both of them are going to get distroed in New York State as well, although Insanity is going to be a little bit more limited. And if I can find either of those or both, they're definitely being reviewed. And I do have, I think, in my cellar a vintage or 2 of Sunday Morning Stout, which probably has went sideways. I don't think I have anything of Insanity. Anyway, a longer intro, but like Weyerbacher's killing it. They still are killing it. Went bankrupt twice, come back, they're still killing it. Seek out their beers. They're doing great stuff still. I don't know. Hopefully this is just as good as I remember it. Now, pretty sure this is an English style barley wine. That's what I always remember this one being. They even say on Untapped in the website, or on Untapped and Instagram about this being with mostly English ingredients. Always remember this one being an English barley wine. If it's American barley wine, I'd remember because I'm not a huge fan of American barley wines. I like the English style a little bit better. So we're going to pour it into this glass here, and I hope this is just as good as I remember it. We'll see. Something like that. English barley wines, just all the malty goodness. They're just fantastic. So how does this look? Well, on camera, that's, it's going to be darker than it is in person, but it has this deep kind of mahogany, almost like very deep, I want to say like a rust color. Yeah, it has like a rust, like a deep amber into rust. Definitely some red hues in there, orange, red, mahogany, rust, somewhere in that realm. Hold up to light. I can see my hand through it, but there is very fine particulates and there's a couple chunks floating around. Has about a half finger of this straight up khaki, almost lightly tan colored head that, it looks really nice. There's some alcohol legs around the rim of the glass that, or I shouldn't say the rim, but just around the insides of the glass that, you can tell it's a bigger ABV beer. And I think it looks beautiful. I mean, it doesn't look like, an amazing, just crazy looking beer, but this is an English barley wine. And, the higher ABVs, hard to retain the head there and whatnot, but it looks really what I expected it to look like based on the style and what I remember of this beer. It's good nose. Shout out to a very good friend of mine, viewer of the channel, somebody who has been very gracious on my channel over the last couple of years, Sierra Hotel. He's hooked me up with a lot of crazy hyped West Coast beers, some from Pulpit Rock and whatnot. But him and I chat a lot on Instagram, and he's starting to understand the why people really enjoy barley wines. For a while there, he's trying different barley wines, barrel aged, non-barrel aged, and he finally came to the realization why he likes them. And I think if you don't like barley wines off the rip, it is definitely a style that takes a while to understand what you like from the style or what you do enjoy from the style, and then look for those barley wines. For me, it was like I tried a bunch of American, bunch of English, and I realized the English was for me. And then I looked for the ones that had a lot of like fruity, kind of like caramelized sugar feelings to them. And that's what I like, and that's what this nose is. It's just malt on malt. Lots of fruitiness. Like there's sweet dark cherry. There's plums. I'd say like a golden raisin. I don't use that much, but I've had some recently, and this is like very golden raisin-esque. So maybe not dark fruits, but golden raisin, you could say regular raisin. And then it's like you took one of those golden raisins and just like covered it in caramel or toffee. It just has that beautiful caramelized sugar in conjunction with the dark fruits. There's a little bit of like a bready quality. Like not like a nice rustic like white bread. It smells lovely. There's definitely a booze presence in the nose. And the one reason I like English barley wines more than American is I always feel the American barley wines, certainly fresh, like your Bigfoots of the world. They are so, hop driven and very, very hoppy on, especially the finish for me, that like it's sometimes overwhelming. If it's more of like a mild to moderate bitterness and hop character in general, I'm cool with it. But a lot of them are just so like just hop forward off the rip that I need like years of aging to like get in my wheelhouse. And English barley wines don't have that issue for me. It almost has like a liqueur, almost like a barrel essence too, because it does have that alcohol tinge. And then I'm getting like a touch of like vanilla. Yeah, oh man, it smells so fucking good. Yeah, it just smells like a really well-made English barley wine. Like, not much more to say. Let's get into it. Cheers, everyone. So, I didn't say it because, I've had this beer a handful of times, but I haven't had this since like the mid-2010s. You hear me say that a lot about craft beer, and it's the truth. A lot of these classic old school styles that I drank pretty much in a 5 or 6 year period from like 2010 to like 2016. Once the hype beer started getting crazy and the hype styles, like I kind of just pivoted away from these classic beers and went to like all the hype stuff. Then like all the local breweries started, it blew up. I mean, it was a craft beer revolution back in like the early to mid 2010s. So a lot of these classic regional and national breweries, they kind of went to the wayside, which is why like a brewery like Weyerbacher, went bankrupt multiple times, and you see a lot of other big breweries going down or downsizing. But for me, when I drink something like this, I'm reminded of like what the feelings I had of this beer originally. And it's a really cool feeling because it has a familiar taste. But what I remember about this beer is that the nose was always better than the taste, and it still holds true. Don't get me wrong, the taste is really still fucking quite delicious. But the complexity of the fruit character with the caramelized sugars, they're a little bit subdued in the taste, where the nose is more vibrant and like pulsating. In the taste, it's just like more of, it's incredibly smooth. So body and mouthfeel on this one. Yeah, it's full bodied. It's a little bit syrupy. If you don't like syrupy-esque beers, like if you don't like your big boozy beers to have like a really thick, like syrupy kind of feel to them, then this probably isn't the beer for you. It does have like a syrupy kind of nature to the body, so it's definitely a big, thick beer. And then the mouthfeel, good carbonation, moderate carbonation. It's smooth on the palate. Not really all that creamy, but it's very smooth despite the 11.1%. First things first too, with the alcohol, big warming in my chest. Nothing on the palate other than like a slight kind of like ethanol, kind of like if I breathe in and breathe out, like you get a little bit of it after taking a sip, but more of just like a big warming on in my chest and at the stomach. Right front though, that like the caramel, toffee drizzled, golden raisin, you could say dark raisin, it's right at the tip of the tongue. That underlying, again, like rustic, like sweet, kind of like just really doughy, like white bread. Yeah, I mean, it's like a picture like almost has like a slight toasted kind of like if you had like a toasty, rustic white bread. Definitely not a darker bread. And that's kind of the flavor on the palate. But again, it's an underlying like tertiary player. It's not like real big on the palate. As it passes through, more fruitiness, a very sweet like cherry kind of feel to it. Almost a cherry cordial. I'm getting a little bit of like a really like 80-90% cacao bar. Like so like almost like just cocoa nib-esque more so than anything. It gives me a little like like unsweetened cherry cordial, if that makes sense. There's a little bit of vanilla, a little bit of cocoa nibs, and then the cherry. But again, you could say a lot of different dark fruits in this one, a lot of caramelized sugars, touch of brown sugar, maybe even a bit of molasses. It finishes, though, with a pretty big dryness. I feel like the alcohol dryness is the thing really pushing it here because this is almost full on dry. So mild to moderate bitterness. There's a little bit of a hop character, and it's more in that like earthy, almost like, it almost has like an English like bitter kind of hop character in terms of the bitterness, where it's like almost copper coin, slightly dirty. I know that sounds weird, but if you've ever had some like true old school English beer, especially like ESBs and bitters and whatnot, you might pale ales, you get that like dirty kind of copper coin hop character, and it's a little bit here, not too big. Very drinkable for the ABV. I mean, the syrupy body definitely drinks like 11-12%, big warm in the chest, but because the flavors are more subdued on the palate from the nose, it makes it a little bit more, dare I say, quaffable. It's a little bit more, of a drinkable beer that you get from a lot of these barley wines, whether they're American or English style. I dig this quite a bit. I'm definitely going to drink the rest of this, so I'm just going to pour the rest in, see if there's any more goodies, because there were definitely some chunks, and I don't see any more chunks pouring in right now. So maybe that was just, I mean, I kept these in my fridge right side up, so should be any issues with, yeah, there's not much on the bottom of that, so we're good. Let me do one more sip, and I'm going to rate this one. Just to reference this one, I used to give this one in that like 4 to 4.25 range. Insanity would always get like a 4.5 plus for me because I think the barrel aging, again, not that this body is inappropriate for the ABV, but it is a bit like syrupy and kind of, that could weigh on some people's palate. And I think the barrel kind of thins it out a little bit, makes it like more in my wheelhouse. But then you add like the bourbon character, so it's the vanilla, the oak, the bourbon qualities, and it just knocks this one up a notch. So let me go back in for a sip. I don't think this is going to get much different than I used to give it in terms of a rating. No. It's just, this isn't the best English barley wine I've ever had. It's not even remotely close to the worst. It's like one of those beers where if I was in the mood for an English barley wine and I'm walking through my beer store or a bottle shop, or I'm at Wegmans and I see this in the Mix 6 location, or maybe I even see a 4-pack of it, I would not hesitate to grab this one because I think it does the style justice. It's not the best in the style, but it gets the job done. It's really nice. It's enjoyable. It's tasty. I have no issues throwing this one back. I just want Insanity because it's a better beer to my palate. But anyway, Blithering Idiot, which is what I am. The name of this channel should be the Blithering Idiot, not the Beer Patrol. I'm going to give this a low 4.25. I'm going to go 4.15. I think that's a fair score for what I'm drinking here. Typically, like I said, 4 to 4.25. This is kind of almost smack dab in the middle. I think if the nose carried over, and yeah, I think if there's a more pop on the palate, this would get like a 4.25 right on the nose. It's just a really good beer, but it's not mind-blowing. It never really was mind-blowing, but it was just a really well-done English barley wine from an American brewery that I could easily access back, 8 to 10 years ago. So that's where I'll leave it. Price point availability. Now, the one thing I haven't mentioned about these Weyerbacher reviews is Weyerbacher, I used to call them the Lagunitas of the East Coast, or I guess the Mid-Atlantic region, whatever you want to say, because their price points were insane. Insanity from them used to run me like $12 to $14 a 4-pack. You're talking like a 13% bourbon barrel aged English barley wine for somewhere between $3 to like $3.50 a bottle. Insane. It's just like absolutely crazy. Nowadays, they're back like, the price points are a little bit higher. This is about $16. Most places I checked, $16 to $17 a 4-pack, which still, I don't think is a bad deal for $4 to $4.25 for a bottle of something that's 11.1% English barley wine done pretty well, but not as good as they used to be. So I think I paid like $4.50 or $5 for that bottle, getting it as a single, which is the going rate. I'm fine with it. I wish it was like the price points from 8 to 10 years ago, but that pretty much goes for everything, and don't we all? It's never going to happen. So it's fine. The price point's fine. Availability, fuck it. Listen, I've said this on all of them. I have no idea. I just know New York State, we're seeing them a bit more, and Sunday Morning Stout and Insanity, which apparently is going to be released for Black Friday, are going to make the New York State eventually. So if you're in New York State and you like Weyerbacher stuff, they're going to be showing up, those two beers. And like I said, I'm definitely going to buy each of those, maybe even a 4-pack of Sunday Morning Stout, and maybe even the Sandy. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I want to review both of those. If I can't get my hands on them, I might have to hit up my contacts in Pennsylvania. So anybody out there in Pennsylvania that could hook that up, that would be cool. But yeah, this is just a really good beer, and all the Weyerbacher beers have been really good. So I can't, listen, I'm waxing poetic about Weyerbacher, despite the fact that like I haven't reviewed a beer from them in 5 years, and then all of a sudden I review 4 in a row, and you're like, what the hell? Yeah, I mean, this is a beer that I kind of, you know, it sounds stupid to say, I just ignore what I'm about to say, but this is like the beer I grew up on when it came to craft beer. Really, it was one of those breweries that was like always a trusty standby, good price point, quality of the beer was pretty fucking good, and I could always rely on them. And then at some point, I pivoted away, went to the more hype stuff, local stuff. Then all of a sudden they're just gone. And I'm like, wow, I would like to try this and try that. And I can't get them. So, you know, I'm glad that they're back, and hopefully they keep on kicking ass. And I hope that you guys out there who can get Weyerbacher and remember drinking Weyerbacher, drink them. Buy some of their stuff, support them. I bought all 4 of the new beers show up. I'm gonna buy everything that shows up. I might buy 4-packs. I want to see some of these regional breweries continue to do well, especially if they're kicking out good beers. I know this is a longer review. I do apologize, but I think Weyerbacher deserves it based on the 4 beers that I've just reviewed over the past couple months. And yeah, they're just as good as I remember it. So, you know, I think they deserve it. And yeah, check them out if you haven't done so. So again, if you've had this beer before, or the Insanity or anything, if you just want to talk about Weyerbacher, post in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you. And I appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. I don't think I really talked about the sweetness. There is a, you know, pretty big sweet malty goodness at the forefront, but again, has a big firm dryness, a little bit of that bitterness. It's still lean sweet, but it's not cloying. I'm going to drink the rest of this, not have any issues. And that's a lot of these old school styles. They can be sweet, but unlike like pastry stouts and pastry sours and everything with like a bunch of crazy sweet adjuncts added to it, a lot of old school beers like this aren't sickly sweet. They're sweet, they're rich, they're decadent, but they're not cloying. And that's kind of where this lands, and I'm okay with that. So shutting this one down. Appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. Till the next one. Cheers.